Hey, what's up? How is it going? This is part 25 of the Writing on Trump's Wall, where I read the post-it notes that were on the wall in the Union Square subway station. So, a few days after Donald J. Trump won his first term as President of the United States of America. And I went down there with a friend of mine and just checking it out. And I'm keeping in mind that people literally mean figuratively, especially when they're talking about politics, and in this case, specifically Americans. And I'm trying to get some understanding, okay, what do they actually mean here? And what's the figurative meaning behind this? And this is the series where I do that. And as I said, part 25, getting into it. So this is part 25. I normally open with some current affairs. I'm just going to go blast around, blast around the United States of America political landscape with some current affairs. Starting off with football. I played American football, and there was one part of the United States of America that really endeared me to it. Coming from abroad and things like that, and having football be soccer, what they call soccer there. And I'm going to expand on this in a separate video, talking about it in relation to certain things that are Americanisms that are exported to the rest of the world in a different way, and then the inverse, things come into America and they're changed in their own way. And there's some things that are uniquely American that I don't think people outside can understand that much. Like, people understand rugby, people understand like soccer, football, but like American football is something that is not really seeming to take on. But then you look at something like baseball, it picks up in Japan. So I don't quite know exactly what's behind some of these things. Maybe if there's something similar, like there's already rugby and there's already football, so they don't really need American football. They already have that. But then with Japan, there wasn't an equivalent of baseball. Like the places that have cricket already, they don't have baseball. So there could be many things behind this, but that's not the main topic. I'm talking about American football itself because of the things it's given to me. It's the sport where I went in. I had no idea what it was. My friends in high school knew what it was. It's a big part of the culture. They embraced me into it. I went on there. It was like using my physical abilities, lack of understanding, learning, understanding the teamwork, the different melting pot type of sport where there's people of such different sizes working in different places. Somebody's working on the other side of the field. You don't even have to know what that person's doing on the other side of the field. Then you switch on the field when you go on offense and defense. It could be an entire other people. You could play offense. You could be amazing at one position and never know what the other person on the other side of the field does. Although it normally helps to know what the other person is doing, because when you're actually studying a defense and you're like, okay, this is how I can actually defeat the actual defense, how I can score better as an offensive player, it helps to know what the other person is doing. So, but there's this thing of just, it's not separate but equal, separate but equitable, or separated but equitable. It's not even separate because you're part of the team and you all have some purpose into it. But chances are, if you were all the same, then you actually wouldn't be successful. You need diverse people, diverse talents, skills, speeds, strengths, abilities in order to actually have a very good team. You have to be able to change on different things. You have to be able to take some kind of hierarchy, some structure. The coaches call plays. Every play, you stop and you're like, okay, we're going to do this now. You stop and then like, okay, we're going to do this. Stop and then, okay, we're going to do this. You can have a game where everything works to that. Everything works there. It's 0-0 at the end, and all of a sudden one person misses some assignment. 99-yard touchdown, game over. So there's a lot of things about life that taught me that. And with American football in specific, one of the main parts of it is one of the main parts of it to me was just that meritocracy, that you work hard, you get out there, you play. Some people are great at it, some people aren't. Even if you aren't that good, there was times when somebody wouldn't be that good, but then you'd get really good by the rest of the people, and then you'd be blowing out the team, and then some people would come in, you'd cheer for them. Senior day, people would come out. There was a lot of Americana that, for me, spoke to me. And with that sport, it started a long time ago. It was just white people, and a lot of segregation was in there. But since it got desegregated, there's been a lot of black stars, black athletes. Right now, it's predominantly black. I think it's like 75% black athletes. There's a video coming up I have about the Rooney Rule, which is something else with the people on the top and things like this. And I also talked about this other video where they're talking about athletes saying they're slaves, and I just think that is ridiculous. And I feel a bit insulted by it. It's a disgusting thing, but then I have a separate video where I'm talking about this whole thing with Americanization where I will focus on that. That is a rant that I've been thinking about for some time, and this is going a long time in the current affairs. But let me get to the point. In the last one, in part 24 of this, I was talking about how I think the riots are going to pass. And I think they have passed. The unrest coming from the unfortunate death of one George Floyd in Minnesota. The police are in jail. They've all been charged. The charges were upped. And unfortunately, with the upping of the charges, I think that will make it harder for those charges to stick. And then there might be another relapse of some of the protests and riots and unrest. But this might take some time. I don't think this case will actually see court before the election. But now that election season is coming in, they're switching back. Joe Biden's up picking he's picking his running mates and things like that. Trump is now setting up the different rallies and things like this. They're setting up, okay, where's the Democratic National Convention going to be? Where's the Republican National Convention going to be? They're switching the political machine, the media machine, the information machine, the messaging machine. The United States of America is switching. Joe Biden has already come out and started saying, oh, yeah, I'm afraid if Trump loses, this was on the Daily Show, if Trump loses, he's not going to actually leave the White House. But yeah, the military is going to come out. And that is a disgusting thing to say. So I can already see they're pivoting and switching the next. They know they're going to take an L. I think they know they're going to take an L, but this is what I'm saying. I've talked about this in separate videos. Joe Biden's going to lose. Bernie Sanders lost because of this. They know they're going to take an L here. Right now, they're still a political party. They're still a machine. They're still going to sell something. When you look at sports, this is the thing. The Super Bowl will come about. The Super Bowl is the final match of the the National Football League, of the American Football League, where it's a big thing. It's a massive thing. It's almost like a holiday, Super Bowl Sunday, where Americans come together and they watch it all over the country. It's like millions of people, like 30 million people. It's like 30 million people. Let me go check and see what the average viewership has been. So I completely lowballed that number. It wasn't 30 million. It's 19 million is the average viewership. Now, I would say maybe 5 million of that is abroad, like outside of the United States of America. But think about in comparison. That's 325 million people around that in the United States of America. The voter turnout for the 2016 election was 138 million people. So there was more people. That's 55.7% of the people who actually vote, who actually are eligible to vote. Now with Americans, this is 90 million people, and that's probably majority of the people who are interested in sports watch it. I'd say 85% of football fans, and then other people are just interested in the event for the event. And I'll get back to this turnout before, but I just want to get to the point. This thing is big. It's major. When you come up to a situation like that, even if it's even if people understand this one team's probably going to blow out the other one, even in sports in general, when they're like, okay, this team's a lot better than the other one, when they're building up to Super Bowl weekend, there's so much money going in. Maybe the 30 I was thinking, because it's like a 30-minute ad is like $1 million. Like, it's millions of dollars being spent in this. The amount of people, the amount of eyes that are going to be watching this, the amount of money that's made when you go to a location. It's the same thing that's happening with these conventions and things moving around with all the shutdowns and people wondering, are we going to be able to do this? But then you move a convention, you move a Republican convention, like it's been moved from North Carolina or South Carolina to Florida because of some situations where the mayor or the governor, I think it was the mayor, the mayor of Raleigh couldn't guarantee that it was going to be a full convention. He wanted to have social distancing and this and this. And then the Florida guy was like, yeah, you can have a full convention here. So they're going to do the voting there, and then the voting with the actual people, members of the actual RNC, Republican National Congress, I think. I think that's what it is. I always confuse this. I even do it with the DNC. It's a committee. There's a convention, there's a committee, and I don't know if there actually is a Congress of these things. And this is a very long current affairs, but hey, apparently there's a lot more I want to talk about. But I think I want to make this point. There's many things going in together. So regardless of what the team is, even during the season, people understand. You look at sports people covering these things. You look at all these channels that actually rely on that. You look at the people who go to these locations. Getting excitement, getting people interested, getting eyes there, getting people involved in something that they already care about adds the amount of money. It's people's business. So even if they know it's going to be a blowout, even if the Democrats know it's going to be a blowout, they still are interested and invested. The media is still interested and invested, even if they know Trump is going to win, in making it seem like it's going to be closer, so people keep watching and keep staying interested, and the advertising dollars come in, the investment money comes in, the campaigns get their money. Because it's not just the campaign money. You put money into a campaign on the person, on the Joe Biden who's running, you're getting people up and into it, you're activating people down ballot. Some of that money goes in there as well. So some of the other people who are who are jockeying for position while you're doing this whole thing. People coming out on the campaign trail, they're also elevating their position. It's a machine. It's a political machine. The theater must go on. The show must go on, regardless of if one of the actors is just horrible. One of the actors is just a lame duck. One of the actors is just losing, not even saying his lines. There's other people involved in this stage show. There's people on the lights. There's people who actually clean the aisles and things like that. There's people who are selling the tickets. There's people who are doing the graphic designs for the marketing. There's the next shows in the future. The theater has to pay its bills. There's all these things. So that's going to continue. Trump is going to win by a landslide. But they're going to keep this up. I'm still going to be watching it with some interest, not as much interest as it is in the last ones. Still, some things could happen. I'm like 95% sure Trump's going to win by a landslide. But back to the thing. So I was talking about that whole thing where you have to talk it up. Seeing the American Football League, I mean the National Football League, there was AFC or there was things like that before they actually joined together. But anyway, seeing them pivoting now, after having been somewhat successful during this shutdown, even having their draft, just seeing that was an amazing thing. This is what I'm talking about. You looked and you saw the homes of these people, these black kids being drafted, mostly black kids being drafted into the NFL, coming out, and they're being drafted from their homes. You see the family, you see the joy, you see all this, you see the country just coming into people's homes, and it was a mix. It was a white people's home, some Hispanic people, some it was. You see America that way, and I think that's a much better product. So I think they've done well. But then now, one of the things they finally switched on, now they're talking about with Colin Kaepernick. And I have separate videos talking about the Colin Kaepernick situation. He was one of the people who early started with taking a knee in the NFL. He started by sitting on a chair. Then he was talking about he couldn't actually explain what exactly he was doing it for. Specifically, it was police violence, this and this. And they're talking about, oh, now Colin Kaepernick needs to come back. He's had chances. And I've talked about this. Colin Kaepernick, I think, is making enough money as an activist. He's a millionaire. He was paid most of his contract while he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing as well. They talk about certain statistics, but is he winning? It doesn't really matter if you have these certain statistics. It matters more if you're actually winning games at the end of the day. And these are things that I was seeing, the different mix and the different things that are going on. But now they're talking about, oh yeah, Colin Kaepernick is probably going to play again. Does he even want to play? Isn't he going to take the position away from somebody else who's coming up in the league? Somebody else. It could be another black athlete. Fully black athlete, because Colin Kaepernick is half, but Obama was half, and he's a black president. But just seeing them switching to this marketing, everybody's jumping on this marketing thing. That is part of a sign of me just showing, like, yeah, people know that the things are going to come back in. We're going to have another one of these things in a year or so. And probably not even a year or so. I think a year or so you will see what happens with this actual case, with Derek Chauvin and the other police officers that were involved in this. I think there'll be more of a burst after that. And then a few years down the line, another occasion will probably happen, probably halfway through Trump's second term, and that will spark things up again. And I think we'll see that. We'll see that happen again with the specific police brutality on the black community violence. But I am confident. I'm glad in seeing the messaging, the counter messaging to these things. I just released a video, which is actually pretty. It's been met pretty well, and thanks if you're a new subscriber coming from that video. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, do subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. You can also share this. I have this one, as I said, is part 25, and another one with the part 25. I'm just thinking, like, there was Madden 25. I used to play the game too. It's such a good game. Just it's something that has been such a part of America, and I'm falling more and more out of the sports thing, but I don't know if I'll get back into it after this. Some people are like, okay, we're done with the NFL now that they're allowing people to kneel. They're going to hire Colin Kaepernick back. Whatever. It's still entertaining. It still helps so many people in the black community. It still brings the country together in amazing ways. I started thinking about tribalism in the United States of America more towards the actual dynamics between cities instead of tribes like they have in Kenya where it's your genetics and your things. It's more like tribes as football teams. You wear the football colors, you wear your city team's colors. Even within certain cities, they'd be like, okay, the New York Jets or the New York Giants. You'd have your actual locations you'd go to. You'd have certain things, certain mythical figures from the sports heroes and things like this, and games and occasions. And there was something to show some kind of camaraderie and group identity from that. Okay, so I think that's all I was talking about there. Where in the current affairs, I talked about a lot of different things. I've been trying to keep these 10 to 15 minutes. So we're already at the 15-minute mark. What I'm going to do is actually just read some of the post-it notes. I see how many I can get now until I get to 20 minutes, and then I'll record another one after this where it's just post-it notes with a quick just thing kicking back to this video talking about, I already talked about the current affairs, but I want to do the post-it notes, and then let's just get into it. Okay, the first one here is all you need is love. I've mentioned this before, so I'll mention it again. I have a problem with the way people use love. It's one of the four-letter words that I think is overused. I think it should be placed into that kind of section that we used to keep curse words or four-letter curse words as things that are only used in very specific times. I think love and hate need to be used in very specific times. When you're talking about, oh, there's racism, and racism is something that I think comes from hate and loving oneself, one's group too much. If you don't define this, if you use these things lightly, then you get this miscommunication. It's overly used. Somebody hears racism, and to them, it's actual hate. It's something terrible. But to somebody else, it's just, yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. Like, I hate it when I'm watching the game, and then, like, the adverts come, and then I go in, and I'm going to use the bathroom, and then I come back, and the game's, like, started already, and I miss the plays. Like, I hate it when that happens. It happens all the time. Or on the flip side, someone will be like, oh, man, you see, like, every time that guy gets that sack, like, how he comes in, he tries to block him, and the guy comes in and just, like, tackles him, and then he does that dance, man. I love that dance, man. I wish I could do that at work when I do something good, man. I love that. That's not love. So I think some of these things are too wide. It's too wide of a range. When I think hate, imagine that break you took to the bathroom. You went there, and then and then you come back, and you find that during that break, you're watching it with your son or your daughter, and there were some gangbangers outside. So some gangs outside having a gang turf war, and they started shooting, and they shot through the window and killed one of your kids. That's something that, to me, can engender the feeling of actual hate. What were these people doing out there? What is behind that kind of behavior, those kind of actions? That's something you can hate. To me, love is to hear that, oh, this one athlete, like, yeah, he's a bench athlete. He plays occasionally. He's not going to be in the Hall of Fame or anything. But that one athlete heard a story similar to that, and he was maybe in a gang, or he knew somebody that was in a gang that died when he was a kid, and that resulted in him leaving the gang and deciding to get into the sport, and it helped him get out of his position, and he met good coaches. He got more interested in doing things in his life, and now he happens to just not drive a flash car, save his money, and he spends most of his time not working on his profession of playing football, running an outreach program in inner city areas to try and avoid this kind of situation. Now, to me, that is something where I can be like, man, I love that person did that. That is somebody who loves virtue. Something like that, I'm seeing like, wow, it's not a virtue signaling. He hasn't come out and done this, but this is just what the person does. And to me, that's where you can use these things. So where is the hate and where is the love? Where is the love? So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this term. What is the actual term? What is the word being used here? How is it being applied? And I think we have to define these things in an appropriate way. We have to come to an understanding of what we're talking about in order to actually achieve the actual results. We need to see what are our internal biases. What are we implying by this? What are the ramifications of this? Because from my observations, problems occur not because of what X is, but because of how we define X. And as I mentioned, coming to the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to wind this up now. I'm going to go read a few more. It's going to be a 10 to 15-minute video just focusing on that. Let me just give a little roundup of this again, tie this in together. As I was mentioning, some of the issues right now in the United States of America, some people are thinking it's finally end of the world. It's what we're talking, things are crumbling, it's going to be horrible. No, the United States of America is still a very strong place. Some very bad things have happened. Some people are out there protesting and doing things for reasons that they don't understand. There's other people taking advantage of it, as horrible human beings tend to do. You don't have to hate everyone. You don't have to love everything that's being done. You can pick and choose. You can actually go in and after the details and define what's actually there. I think the actual issues at hand are more a thing of the election season. You add the pandemic, you add the fact that the Democratic Party and the political machine is in a bit of a panic mode. It is an organism, it is being drained of its lifeblood. The media itself feeds on this kind of energy and things like that. They have jobs to keep as well. They have eyes interested. They have investments in different things, and that's going to change things. United States of America, I think, is still a very strong place. Human beings are still good people. There's misunderstandings out there, but more understanding is there to be had. So I'm recording this on Saturday of the 13th. I think I'll be posting this on this upcoming Monday and that next part on probably Thursday-ish. But anyway, till next time, I appreciate you taking your time to come listen to this. Like, share, and subscribe. There's also links below to our merchandise store where I post different merch. And
Ladies
goodbye.
and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, Donald John Trump.